Welcome everybody to Spinner Rack, and today we're going to have our first episode review of Game of Thrones. Yeah, we've been talking about it, me and my man, Cal. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty and tell you basically what we thought of this episode. Cal, can you introduce yourself?
Calvin Ellis here, ready to rock in the early morning.
Okay, Cal. So, let's start. We're going to break this down. The North, basically King's Landing, and Sam in the South. And lastly, that special girl herself from Dragonstone, Dany. So in the North, you saw the brand portion coming under the wall. What do you think about that?
Like I said before, the openings to that the first episode for each season is really the last episode of the last season. That's really the first episode. And then we get to this season, and this is more like the second. And then all the characters, they're trying to bring everybody up to speed, give everybody a little bit of movement, so we can understand where their place is in the whole thing. And it usually doesn't work very well. This is probably one of the better ones, over the course of so many seasons. But there's so many characters, and not everybody really has anything to do. So we see him for a little bit, and then he gets taken in the wall. Whatever. We see Bran because we need to see him, not because he does anything.
Yeah, we saw him have that vision of the Night King on the move with the giants and whites and him and his men.
We know that even if we don't see them. We know they're coming. Winter's been coming for 7 years.
So moving on to Jon and Sansa, what did you think of that scene when they were in the, in the hall of Winterfell?
I believe Sansa too much time away from people who had nobler instincts. She just comes across as, she comes across like she's been totally influenced by all of her time with Cersei, with Littlefinger. You can't trust anyone. Screw them before they screw you. I mean, I understand she's had a pretty rough road of it. Ramsay Bolton, being with Ramsay Bolton will, do a lot to anyone. But Theon had a rougher time with him than she did, to be quite honestly. And at the very least, his actions are better explained why he reacts as he does, especially with the things that occurred to him. But, to be honest, she's just coming across as a straight bitch with dealing with Jon, and he's her brother.
Well, no, I get the opposite thing, man. I get where she's had wisdom of dealing with some of the most powerful people, Littlefinger, Cersei, and she saw her father and saw what happened. I mean, in one of the comments she actually makes to Jon, but would it be so hard for him to listen? And she reminds him of what happened to both her father and Robb. Is that both were noble, and unfortunately they both died. And you see who still survived, Cersei and Littlefinger, the schemers. So I kind of understand her point of view, She wants to maintain her head, You
don't countermand the dude. He just became king, and she's challenging him on stuff. And for what reason? Because of her own personal experience. It's not what's good for the kingdom. She just wants revenge. Jon does the right thing. He says, no, I'm not going to punish these people because of the mistakes that their fathers did. And what is he going to have? He's going to have a lifetime of loyalty from them because he spared them and because he did what was right as king. Same thing that Ned Stark did. So she's just totally out of line. And the thing is, if she has an issue with it, she can speak with Jon about it privately. No, she decides that she has to come and throw her weight around for no reason other than she feels to throw her weight around. It wasn't conducive to anything. Same with that dumb scene with the King of Bear Island. I'm going to have every man, woman, child, and girl, and everybody's going to fight. Then everybody's going to die. Some people have to stay behind. Some people are going to need to be protected. I understand it's 2017 and everybody's equal, but guess what? Everybody's not equal. Some people are going to have to stay behind. And yeah, if you throw all the women to fight and you lose enough of them, you're not going to have anybody on Bear Island because you're not going to be able to sustain your population. Stuff like that is just stupid at the end of the day. It's self-serving. But Game of Thrones, which used to have a pretty clear bent, got taken over by a lot of the complaints, especially in the case of the female characters. They're taken from there.
But we did see foreshadowing. We knew Dany was going to be a very important character in the show. We knew Arya was on a particular arc that was going to make her important. We knew about Cersei, her ambition, her goal to take over. And we also knew that something was going to happen to Sansa that was going to transform her from the little girl who thinks about knights and stuff. So, I think that this would have basically played out somewhat the same in the books. Probably not to the same degree, but I think it would have happened. Now, in terms of Bear Island, in terms of the North, everyone fighting, the women, the guys, I think it was bound to happen. I mean, remember, this is a fight between the living and the dead. You know, if you don't fight, and eventually everybody's going to die. They need every man and woman. But I see your point. You know, so what can we say?
You're disagreeing with it. You can't have every man. You can't have every man and woman fight, and then you're going to have a Pyrrhic victory. Some people have to be protected. Some people are going to have to stay behind. You can't. Who's taking care of the babies? There are no children. There's no children on Bear Island at all. Everybody's of fighting age. It's ridiculous.
Well, no, that's why I say I understand what you're saying. But of course, naturally, this is a show, and so you got to give them a little license. Of course, they don't mean naturally every single person. There's going to be somebody who's taking care of the child.
A social moment. That's what it is. It's a social moment, strictly, for what I said, and that's why it's ridiculous. It's not necessary. All you have to do is say everybody needs to fight. Do we really need that scene where the guy's saying, "I'm going to put a pike in my granddaughter's"? Look, no, you're not going to put a pike in your granddaughter's hands because more than likely she can't carry it. All right, you're sending if you just want to send people up as fodder like they did in World War II when the Russians were just sending men up there to die so they could get enough time to keep things going. Okay, say that, and that's fine. But if this whole idea is, well, everybody's capable and a woman is just as capable of fighting as a man, no, that's not always a situation. Why it is that women didn't fight in these particular battles? Men were expendable, okay? And the guys would say, yeah, the men were expendable. We can send over there and we can kill a whole bunch of them. We can lose 90% of the men. We can't afford to lose 90% of the women. That's one of the bigger reasons. Now, if you want to address that in your show, cool.
Okay, moving on. We're talking about the Samwell portion of the episode. What do you think of that? I thought it was completely disgusting. The food,
not only disgusting,
the slop,
but too long. That was about. Anybody who gets a full minute on a show like this, that's a long time. And they spent a full minute just showing what he was going through in his daily life of dropping slop for people to eat, and then picking up the remains of the slop and cleaning the slop. And that was like, I don't really need to see this for that long. I get it. You could have done that for 15 seconds, and everybody would have got it. They could say, well, we were really trying to make it sink in. It sunk in after the first 15 seconds. It didn't really need more afterwards. But
I agree with you.
But see, there's a difference between him and Bran, where with Samwise, you see that he's going to be playing a bigger role because the information that he finds is going to play a much bigger role in terms of the battle to come, and with another particular character as well. So those type of things work, whereas when the other ones, we're just seeing them because we need to see them. Make your moments. You only have a limited amount of time. You have a limited amount of time and a load of characters. So really make the most of your time in the moment, not just to post stuff you can, so the internet will love it, but tell them some really, have good story structure and an idea of what you want to do, not just these ridiculous moments, especially if it's not conducive to the overall story. This is just, that was a nice little moment. I don't care.
I like the nice moment. It was disgusting, but I like the moment. And I also like the fact that Sam is in the Citadel and he's actually part of it now. Though, from reading from the books, it's just a little weird that, a maester is not supposed to have a wife and kids and stuff. And here Sam still has Gilly. I'm not knocking Gilly. I'm not one of those who want to knock it, but I'm just saying, there are some inconsistencies that need to be, that should be explained. But it's pretty interesting that she's reading, and you see some of the books that he's encountering, the amount of information they have, and even some of the foreshadowing. So in this episode, you have that he finds out that Dragonstone has a mountain of dragon glass. And I think Stannis said this in a previous episode, the damn place is full of stuff. And it just helps to reconfirm that. So he's going to definitely contact our man John and give him the information. And one of the reasons why he's going to have to go to Dragonstone and end up meeting Dany. You agree? Disagree?
It's pretty obvious. I think it's not too much. What else is going to happen? Other than that, they're all going to die.
Let's talk about Cersei and Jaime. I thought that scene of them in that painted room was pretty good. The very fact, everybody's been talking about it, that, Jaime's on the fingers and Cersei's on the neck. It's foreshadowing what could happen in the relationship in the future. I'm not sure if the executive producers are that obvious, but, it's pretty interesting. But I also like the fact that our man Jamie, he's saying, no, dude, we don't have any allies when he's talking to Cersei. And Cersei, she's like, you'll see, baby, don't worry, man. I'm going to do this whole new dynasty for 1,000 years. And Jamie's like, yo, what? We got no kids. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just us two, So I thought that was pretty interesting. She's a little warped. Well, she was always warped, but now that Tommen is dead, she's a little bit more warped. And I think now she's seeing it as a rightful place to rule as opposed to...
She just needs to die and get over with. There's nothing more to do with her character.
One of the most popular characters on Game of Thrones.
I don't care if she's the most popular character or one of the most popular characters. Is it conducive to the story? Cersei's story is over. All she has left to do is die. Every part of her prophecy has come true. At this point, what is it going to do now? Now she's going to become just a Mary Sue where, okay, she's going to start pulling stuff out of her rectum in order to keep, killing people or to continue on with this popularity of being this really good villain. She's not that great of a villain at the end of the day. Ramsay Bolton was an excellent villain, and he's dead. She's there because she's popular. So the whole sequence with her and Jamie's like, look, let's just get it on. Get to the battle. I don't really need to see any more interaction between the two of them. Jamie will probably survive. She's going to die. We know she's going to die. Let's just get on with it at the end of the day. The rest of the stuff is just stroking.
So what do you think about the rabbit she pulls out of the hat, Euron, when he comes to talk to them?
Oh, duh. Didn't see that coming. I had no idea about that. We knew that from a couple of seasons ago. Okay, who else is left? There's nobody else left. And then, of course, something else, Euron is probably going to pull something else, out of his, out of the hat. So, of course, we can have some friction. But what else? There's nobody else. Unless there's a new kingdom that got created and we didn't know about them. Who else is going to side with her? The White Walkers? Okay. There has to be some sort of battle, and he's one of the only people who's still not aligned to anyone. So, okay, fine. There you go.
Dany finally lands. The crew is there. And we get the curve shape. Let's begin. That's all I have to say about Dragonstone. What about you?
Let's begin what?
Let's begin the conquest.
It's all profiling. That's all it was. I get off and put my hand in his hand and this, that, and the other. It's just a moment. It doesn't do anything. And I understand we need to see the characters and we have to do this, but there's not a lot to say about it at the end of the day. The big moments, Jon Snow. Jon Snow reminds us what it is to be a true king, a true leader. Good moments. Samwise moments, even though that old thing was disgusting, we understand that that's going to have some play, and we need to see it, and it's going to help to move story along. Okay? The situation with the Hound, because there's so many characters, even with the opening playback showing, trying to remind us what the situation was, it doesn't really help at the end of the day. And the Hound's story effectively is over. There's nothing more he really has to contribute aside of maybe some more fighting, death. That's it. I mean, Arya Stark's moment at the beginning, that's, okay, that's good because that's fruition of this little girl who's talking about, I'm going to take revenge, and everybody's like, okay, we don't know if this is going to happen because everybody else who's bigger, stronger, and older are all dying. And we see, she's been taking her revenge step by step. So that's good. All right, that you want to see more of. That you want to see the play-by-play as to how she finally executes it. Right? And we've seen it go step, and it's not necessarily guaranteed. It's not a prophecy saying that, okay, she's definitely going to be able to do these things, but it's been happening step by step, and it's pulling us in. We want to see more of it. But the other guys, for the most part, their stories are effectively over. There's nothing more to show us. That first episode for Game of Thrones is usually, for me, hit or miss. This is probably one of the better ones. So it's a hit, more like a bunt, not even a really good single. It's like a bunt, and you scrambled, and you made it to first base. There you go, Game of Thrones. That's the best I can do for you.
So out of 5, how many stars do you give it?
This is a 3.
I totally disagree. I'm giving it a much higher. I give it a 4. I mean, I like the scene with Arya. I was saving it for last because that was one of the better scenes. But, one of the big things I always have is just, does it make a lot of sense? I think that in the end run, she's going to have to pay dearly for this because if faithless men are supposed to kill people in the contract, and she's killing people for the North. She's killing people with Arya Stark, not as no one as she would develop. And so I think there's going to have to be some consequences in the future. Unless, again, this is probably part of the play. Probably someone did pay them. Who knows? So, hey, this is our first Game of Thrones episode review. I just want to say thank Cal for showing up and thank all of you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it, and